Hello, my name is JD Shadow. On today's special report, Crunchyroll and Viz Media announced Sailor Moon Crystal Season 3 simulcast, and we could call it simulcast just for ease of calling it that. And Square Enix shuts down the Final Fantasy XI console servers for PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360, officially marking the end of an era as the PlayStation 2 officially ends its lifespan. My name is JD Shadow, and the special report will start right about now. So, remember when we were kind of worried about whether or not the Season 3 episodes of Sailor Moon Crystal were going to even be broadcast for the US, let alone be subbed for the US, let alone be dubbed for the US? Well, our wonder is over. Our fears are unfounded because in a tweet by Sailor Moon NA, which is the Viz Media account that handles the Sailor Moon announcements, they tweeted out on 7:05 p.m. on the 31st of March saying, quote, "Super glittery announcement. Sailor Moon Crystal Season 3 starts 4/4 on Viz.com. More details soon." And then the response to that tweet, Omar Rogue asked, quote, "Will we have them in English sub when it's broadcasted? Will it be released at the same time as the Japanese TV broadcast?" And to that they answered, quote, "More details will come soon, but yes, it will be in Japanese with English subtitles to start." Now, as many of you may know, Viz Media has Neon Alley, which they can put on to Hulu, and they can put the episodes up there and on their own site, of course. However, some people would rather go on Crunchyroll to get their anime kick out. Many people see Crunchyroll as having a superior quality of picture, and many people decide to use Crunchyroll as opposed to Hulu, and I switched over to Crunchyroll after Hulu was giving me tons of technical issues that I just couldn't deal with anymore. Well, Crunchyroll about an hour later posted this tweet that said, quote, "The outer senshi appears, Sailor Moon Crystal returns to Crunchyroll." Now, when you click on the details link, it just brings you to the show page where you can view all the episodes, and if you haven't seen them yet, please go start binge watching them. You're probably going to need some of the details. Yes, these are just simple tweets, and quite frankly, there's not much information and details to them. However, this is probably all the details you're going to need to start getting giddy, because the series is coming to the States in one form or the other, and that was the big problem. That was the big issue. Whether or not we were going to have to watch it through illegal means, yeah. And to be quite honest with you, those people who want to see a series and want to view it will view it in any way they can. If they don't have the legal means to do it, they will find a way. And that was a big worry there, but lo and behold, we got our answer. We got our big answer as to when this is going to debut, at least on Neon Alley. We don't know when it's going to debut on Crunchyroll, probably the same day, on Monday, 4/4. Now, as far as me personally, I don't know if I'm going to have a reaction up for it either on the day it comes out or the day after. I want to, first of all, make sure that these are better quality than the ones that I did before, where you saw me in the daytime with the sun blaring down in my window. It wasn't that easy to see me. And second of all, I don't want to be the basket case that I was back at the day, so let's make sure that that doesn't happen. Now, as far as the announcement itself, I wonder why it took so long for them to announce this. I wonder why they just put it out on tweets as opposed to, okay, this is this huge announcement. This is something that's going to really be something people want to see. Maybe it's because people kind of expect it at this point to, at some point, be told, hey, we're going to be simulcasting this, or no, we're not, or we're just going to put it out there, or maybe they didn't even announce it. They were just gonna, oh, by the way, here it is. Here's the next episode of Joy. That's basically what I thought was they're gonna do. It's just gonna say, here it is. But it's glad to see that they have actually went and told us, at the very least, in the tweet or on Facebook, Tumblr, or another form of social media. We were wondering what was gonna happen. We were expecting the worst, that we were gonna have to go on to Kiss Anime or whatever. But Crunchyroll doesn't say much of anything else besides the initial tweet. It is the Sailor Moon NA account that has more details they say they are coming. Mostly, I have to assume that has to do with a dub. When is a dub of this series going to come? Of this season going to come? Why are they still calling it Season 3? Why do they call it Infinity Arc or whatever? Maybe there's a reason behind the naming of that. Maybe that's just how they feel like it's going to be a lot more epic to call it a season, or be more open about what a season is or whatnot. But I have to assume that Viz Media is talking about a dub. And if that's the case, then we're going to have to talk about when the dub is going to come out. Are the same voice actors going to be involved in it? We can assume they are, but I leave nothing to chance anymore in this day and age in the world of entertainment. Anything is possible, but I can 99.9999 infinity% assume that the same voice actors are going to be involved in this, unless something goes completely and horribly wrong. And let's hope that it is not going to go wrong in any sort of way, because we have pretty damn good voice actors for the dub this time. Not saying that the voice actors in the 90s anime were in any way bad, but we have really, really good voice actors for the Viz dub, and Viz is doing an excellent job with it so far, and I can expect that they're going to be doing a tremendous job on this one as well. But what if it's not just the news of a dub? What if it's something else? What if it's a announcement about maybe Crystal coming to DVD or Blu-ray? That is also something that I don't know if they've actually announced yet or not. I haven't been up to date, that is, of the news on that front, so perhaps somebody might actually tell me one way or the other whether or not that is the case. But if it's not the case, there might be that news coming to the forefront, that perhaps a Blu-ray release is on the forefront. That would satisfy a lot of SM fans, and if that were the case, then expect for the release to contain the improved animation, to have the touch-ups with them. I could see them doing that. Perhaps that is on the horizon, but I do believe that even though that could also be on the horizon, they could also announce that. My viewpoint is that they might be announcing when the dub will come. Perhaps the dub will come at the same time as the subtitle edition, which I don't think that would be the case, but that would be interesting to see, just for the fact that I've never personally have seen any anime be able to pull that off. So I would like to see at least one anime company try to pull that off. But yes, all in all, this is excellent news. Now we can go on to official legal sites, and we don't have to worry about the feds coming to our house to arrest us and take us to jail for being on Kiss Anime because somebody was asleep at the wheel to get this license for North Americans. And a bit of a memorandum to the PlayStation 2, although this could also be news about the future of Final Fantasy XI as a whole, but it's not really clear as to what that means for the game in and of itself. First of all, let's get to what it says about the PlayStation 2. According to releases.com, it says that on March 19th, 2015, Square Enix announced that servers for Final Fantasy XI would be terminated for good today, March 31st, 2016, on both the PlayStation 2 and Xbox 360 consoles. While we expect the 360 to still support online play for its games for a good while longer, this marks the end of an era for the PlayStation 2. As many might have known for some time, Final Fantasy XI was the last online connected game to be supported on the old hardware. This certainly shows that it has been around for a long time, and to see that a game was still supported on the PlayStation 2, certainly not too shabby. The PlayStation 2 has been around since March 4th, 2000 in the US. I remember always wanting to get one and wasn't able to get one until a couple years down the road. When I bought it, I was instantly seeing that it paid for itself. There were a ton of games that I wanted to try on that. Final Fantasy X, Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, the Grand Theft Auto series, of course Final Fantasy XI, Gran Turismo. The list list goes on and on and on and on. And I don't think you could possibly pick one game out of a library of so many and say that was your favorite, because how many could be your favorite on the PlayStation 2? It just became the system owned very, very quickly. And I think it was more along the lines of them having great games, of them not necessarily being really aggressive in the console wars, but more along the lines of them having good hardware. It was, to my understanding, the first game system to support DVD playback. I don't remember if the Xbox had it or not, but I do remember for sure that was the main selling point for the PlayStation 2, that it was able to play back DVDs. And we have backwards compatibility, something that's extremely hard to come by in this day and age with the PlayStation 1 games. There was a whole library of games you could play even before you got to see what the next gen, at that point in time at least, had to offer in terms of games. And to be quite honest, nothing could really kill it for a while, even the next gen consoles. When the PlayStation 3 came out and it had its botched launch and all of that, many people held on to their PlayStation 2s because they didn't see a reason to upgrade to the next gen Sony console. They either stuck with the PS2 or went with the 360. And I've always termed the 360 as the PlayStation 2.5 because the 360 seemed to get a lot of their ideas, including what games they wanted to feature on their platform as far as third-party support went, from what was popular on the PlayStation 2. Final Fantasy, you had Grand Theft Auto, of course, and the whole debacle about DLCs, but you could see how much appeal the PlayStation 2 had because it trampled Microsoft, it trampled Nintendo. That was the system to have. That was the system to own at that point in time because the hardware was just right for its time. The DVD drive was just the correct thing to do at that point in time. And that's how the PlayStation 2, in my estimation, won, is because they just had better hardware. Now you could say that they were aggressive, and in many cases when you look at the state of the video game hardware manufacturers at that point in time, you might have had to be. And Sega was not exactly doing well. They didn't really need Sony's help to get them out of the race, although many would say the Dreamcast was their best system. But at that point in time, the writing was on the wall and they were losing support pretty fast. It didn't really have the trust of either third-party developers or the gaming public in general. So I think many people were going to go to PlayStation 2 anyway, even if Sony wasn't as aggressive as people claimed for them to have been. But this is definitely an end of an era. I remember playing Final Fantasy X or GTA 3 for the very first time. I remember reserving my very first video game, which was GTA Vice City. That was the very first game I ever said I'm gonna put money down to reserve that game because I love GTA 3 so much that I wanted to play the next installment of the series. That might be nothing to you, and it may just be a flash in the pan that people reserve games now, but to me, that was a significant moment of my gaming life because that was the first time I had ever done that. That was the first time I ever felt compelled to do that, and that was for a PlayStation 2 game. I remember playing those games for the very first time, and I was amazed by them. I was amazed by Kingdom Hearts. I became a believer that Disney and Square Enix were a very good couple together. I even got into Metal Gear Solid 2 and then got lost in the story for some time. I know a lot more about the story now than I did before, but back in the day, I was completely lost in that story. And then, of course, I bought the hard drive, and I didn't expect to get into Final Fantasy 11 as much as I did. And then, all of a sudden, bam, I just got hooked on it, and it was my introduction to MMOs, and you see where I am now. So, that is definitely a memory for me. That's definitely a sea of memories for me, having that system in my possession. Of course, by today's standards, it's pretty primitive, but when you take into account all the great games that came on it and just how much joy you had to have that sort of system in the palm of your hands, it just brings back a whole bunch of memories to me. But let's get also to that whole idea of Final Fantasy XI, because according to this article, they say they are shutting down both the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox 360 servers, which basically means there's only the PC that is left. And although Square Enix has said that they would continue to support the game on PC, even though all scenarios and the storyline has wrapped up, something tells me that at some point in time they're going to close it down altogether. That is an end of an era in its own right. That is the game that got me into playing MMOs. But Final Fantasy XI was extremely tedious to play when you wanted to level, and there was not much of an end game there. So much, in fact, that many people saw the leveling as the main game. And they went to zone to level up their characters to level 75, and then sooner or later they hit this wall where, okay, there's really nothing else you can do with the job, so you go to a different job. And they really got a lot of stuff right, but they also got a lot of stuff wrong. The crafting system was convoluted, it was tedious, it was way too complicated. Although Final Fantasy XIV, which is the more superior game in every sort of way to Final Fantasy XI, has a complex crafting system too, it's not nearly as complex, and it makes sense in that game. It makes sense to have skill be more of a factor in what you craft, as opposed to just mass crafting everything while you go make yourself a sandwich. Final Fantasy XI did the same thing, but it was way too involved. It was more complex than it needed to be. The leveling was more complex. It was a lot more difficult for the sake of being difficult, and didn't really serve to add to the fun. It took the fun out of it, and you don't want that to happen. You don't want difficulty to do that, especially in an MMO. A lot of people clamor for more challenging content in MMOs like Guild Wars 2, World of Warcraft, but in a way, I think Final Fantasy XIV does get it exactly right, and that is more or less the model that I wish other MMOs would take, especially World of Warcraft. I mean, Final Fantasy XIV has flying mounts. You don't see anybody going to a forum and bitching that they're there. You don't see anybody going bitching that something is too easy, too hard in Final Fantasy XIV, at least not right now. I don't see it. The only thing I really see is that the game might be a bit grindy. I've seen some people complain about that, but I think it's made that way in order to make the leveling concept just as much engaging as the end game. They want to make both sides of the coin be just as engaging as anything else were in the game, because when you see World of Warcraft, leveling is just an afterthought to the raiding, to PvP and stuff like that. You see in Final Fantasy XI, they didn't really focus that much on the end game. In Guild Wars 2, you see them trying it in a sort of way where you make the leveling be a big part of it, and then they're focusing now more on the end game with the addition of raids, some more challenging storyline concept when you go to the Heart of Maguma and the Heart of Thorns. But Final Fantasy XIV, for right now, they seem to have a great, awesome balance between the two, and that is nearly unheard of right now in the MMO world. You don't usually see that, to where you see that good of a balance. So it might be a little bit grindy, but that might be by design in order to make both sides of that coin equally as engaging. And I'm enjoying it. I enjoy the hell out of that game. I sunk a ton of hours into Final Fantasy XIV, and you can see why that is a superior game to Final Fantasy XI in all sorts of ways. But still, with that having been said, Final Fantasy XI has a ton of memories for me. I remember trying to find my way around some of the zones near Sandoria. I remember leveling up my White Mage and trying out Dark Knight White Mage or Warrior Black Mage, or seeing a whole bunch of different combinations of jobs and sub-jobs like Red Mage and Ninja. I saw a lot of those, and many people say, oh, it gimps you, but at the same time, that was experimentation, and sometimes you would see that in Final Fantasy XI. You would see some people see, let's try something different, let's try something brand new to see how that works, and sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't, but at least you saw them actually attempt something that hasn't been tried before and see how that works. And it was, quite frankly, the final game that was still on their ill-fated Play Online service, if you remember that thing. And let's not get into what that did to the Final Fantasy IX strategy guide. Holy crap, have you ever seen what they did with that? But all in all, a a end of an era on both fronts. Obviously, the PlayStation 2, that's the last game that was supported through online services, and not much of an online service for that. They eventually went with the PlayStation Network, and PS3 did that extremely well. But as an end of an era, the PlayStation 2 can officially be said that it is dead, but it will not be forgotten by a long shot. And of course, Final Fantasy 11, I don't expect the PC version to be supported for that much longer if they're going this route, but it will be sad to see it go, just for the notion that it was my first MMO. It has a sentimental place in my heart, even though many of the concepts, when you compare them to, say, World of Warcraft or the much superior Final Fantasy 14, they don't hold up. But at the end of the day, it holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts as being a MMO that got them into playing them, that got them into, at the very least, trying them out, because it was on all the hard drives for the PlayStation 2. How can you not at least attempt it? And A Realm Reborn took the good parts of Final Fantasy 11, stuck them into an engine that seems in a way like World of Warcraft, but it's better in every sort of way to both games. But what if it completely shuts down? I would like to see Square Enix do something to where, hey, if you have an account of Final Fantasy 11, if you paid all this money in monthly fees, maybe we can do something to get you into Final Fantasy 14 to try that game out. I would love to see them do some sort of loyalty program or something like that. That would be awesome if they ever decide, hey, we're going to shut this down completely. But again, it remains to be seen. Rest in peace, PlayStation 2. You will not be forgotten. That's going to do it for this edition of the Special Report. My name is JD Shadow. Please hit the thumbs up button if you liked this. Tell me what you think about the two stories that we focused on. Please be sure to subscribe for more geek gaming culture. My name is JD Shadow, and that just happened.